Okay. Welcome back, everybody. We're now into our second session. I hope you all had a good break and hope you all had a nice coffee or tea or biscuits or something, and something nice. I'd like to welcome into our second session Armin Hoff. So Armin looks after the partner management, channel management for Hexagon and EMEA, and delighted to have Armin again, a good supporter of ourselves over the years, with us this morning. The second session this morning is going to be, Armin's going to talk about some of the successes that Hexagon have had during the COVID. Then I'm going to talk about land and property services and the photogrammetry solution. Then Garrett will talk about the latest updates in our asset register, which is based on M.App Enterprise. And then we'll finish with some predictive analytics and how M.App Enterprise, again, from that, building on from the monitoring kind of conversations that Marcus discussed in the first session, we'll explain with that. So good morning, Armin. How are you?
I'm good, Ciaran. Thanks for the opportunity to be here.
That's great. You're welcome. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just so we know the geographic location you're in.
Yeah, so my office officially is located close to Munich, but as many of us, I'm working from home these days, and that's close to the Austrian border. Yeah, quite south, 80 kilometers south of Munich. So yeah, this is where I speak from today, and I'm happy to be here.
Very good. So you and Marcus aren't too far from each other, really, even though it's Austria and Germany. Yeah. Okay. So Armin, we'll keep the time as we've been doing so far. I'll hand over to you and let you present.
Okay. Thank you, Ciaran. So I'm planning to talk a little bit about the situation, so the COVID-based economical situation Hexagon is faced with. And let me quickly have a look at the overall Hexagon numbers and where Hexagon as a global company is, or how Hexagon is affected by COVID-19. In general, I think we have a very good economical situation in 2020, even though we have this headwind from all the COVID-based impacts. But if you look at our Hexagon interim report for the third quarter last year. Side remark, the annual report, the full annual report is not yet available, but will be soon. You will find it on our investor relation webpage. But if you look at the latest available numbers, we can see that we had the best third quarter in earnings and margins ever, even though it's of course the whole business is heavily impacted by currency headwinds, all the currency exchange variations we have been faced with during the last year, and also based on the information I got before we now have this final report for the full year. I think it was, despite the COVID situation, you could say a successful year for Hexagon. So this is based, of course, not only on the facts that we are in different industries than, for example, companies like owners, shop owners, like restaurant owners are. So we are in a completely different economical situation. But what I can say, we had a strong, and this is also part of the Q3 report, we had a strong development in the geospatial segment, especially if you look at whole Hexagon. Again, the link is added here for those who are interested in looking into more details. You can see that PDF for this report, or find that report on our webpage. But not only the numbers are let's say positive for us, we did also provide some dashboards like other geospatial companies did. So in this case, that's a M.App Enterprise based visualization of the coronavirus in, I think this goes until end of March last year. So in the very beginning, when the first wave started to appear, you can see that in the small chart at the bottom, or country by country, either Hexagon itself or partners of Hexagon, like in this case in the Netherlands, our partner EMEA created a COVID dashboard also based on M.App Enterprise to visualize the evolution or the development of the COVID spread in the different countries. So of course that's a natural thing. It's all geospatial, geo-based data, and we have the tools to visualize it. So of course we did it in that matter. But we also supported authorities and citizens during that crisis. And for example, this nice mobile alert-based dashboard has been developed to give citizens the possibility to send notifications or to notify the authorities about specific situations like crowded places or availability of COVID-related materials that are available to citizens. So all that helps the people to in their daily life affected by COVID. So this has been provided by our colleagues in Poland. So it's an application that is available for free for the citizens, and they can enter data, can take pictures, again connected with the position, of course, and the authorities in the backbone of that system can have access to all these informations and can also make some analysis over the incoming data from the public. So this is a tool for crowdsourcing, but COVID related, of course. Then the next example comes from Portugal. So it's a city of Almada. It's a city close to Lisbon. And they have used our M.App Enterprise platform before COVID. They extended it or used it to provide information to citizens about the location of stores that are open, what products are available, or if something is out of stock, to help the citizens to do a more efficient shopping, especially COVID related. And you remember there's a lot of stories, especially from the beginning of the first wave. The Germans, maybe I shouldn't say that, but it went through the media as well. The Germans were focused on buying toilet paper. The French guys bought red wine, and so you can see different demands in different countries. And this comes from Portugal, and maybe the offerings you can see here, or the products the citizens have been informed about are just based on the local demands and on the local needs. Again, together with M.App Enterprise or using M.App Enterprise, this customer could provide more information to citizens to better survive or to better live in the daily business in the COVID first wave. And then, of course, I think for all of us, the typical working day changed a little bit. For those of us who have small children, maybe the typical working day looked like that. So you've been sitting at a desk, and your small children beside you. You have to manage somehow to bring business and work together with your private life, or you have two children sitting aside of you, listening to teachers online. So everything had to be managed. But on the other hand, our customers had to do their work, to do their daily business and work, and their employees typically worked from home due to the COVID situation, and so this became more or less the new normal. So early March 2020, Hexagon decided to provide free temporary home office licenses, so-called home office licenses, and this helped a lot of our customers to survive this challenge and to manage this challenge, to have people in the home office having, for example, notebooks, could use private notebooks, could use web-based conferencing tools to communicate with colleagues, but they didn't have the tools to, for example, do their geospatial analysis of if this has been part of their daily work. And we tried to support customers by just providing the free temporary licenses. Now, as this is becoming, as I said, the new normal, Of course, we are open for a general home office license campaign. Just talk to Ciaran and team, to your representatives from IMGS. If you think that this will remain even after COVID, this situation, and you need you have a special demand to cover that need or to cover these licenses, then just talk to us, and we will find a solution for that as well. And as mentioned in the title, our customers didn't stop working. So I'm really impressed how many projects we could follow up with our customers, even though we had this COVID-based limitations. And let me just pick a few of them and mention what we did in 2020 together with our customers. And the first one here is across the ocean. So on the other side of the pond, we have the NGA, so US defense customer, who contracted us with a multi-million-dollar deal just using GeoMedia to provide GeoMedia and some extensions, I must say, to provide information, field-relevant information to the teams out in the field. And one of the main criteria was really the reliability, so the stability of the product, the performance, and the interoperability of the end result with existing systems. So they didn't stop working. We've been awarded mid of 2020, and we are in the middle of the project phase with that really important customer. The next one is also a very interesting one. There is the Federal Office of Cartography and Geodesy in Germany contracted Hexagon with the provision of a countrywide digital surface model. So this is related to our Hexagon content group, and they are fusioning data from the Federal Agency for Technical Relief, as well as from the Federal Office of Geography and Geodesy, and make that available to across the different 16 state borders we have in Germany, to different authorities in the, let's say, in the security area, so disaster and security area in Germany. So that's also a very important step. Normally, you would think this authority would have access to these data with their own resources, but it's a cooperation project between Hexagon and this authority. Also a very important one. This shows that even larger federal authorities are still able to run these projects, even though there's these ongoing limitations with COVID. And we have another one in Canada. So the Department of National Defense started a project, again, built on M.App Enterprise, leveraging our Luciad Fusion products as well, and Exalt. For those of you who haven't heard about Exalt, it's an initiative on between the divisions or across the different Hexagon divisions to connect to real-time sensors in the field. And they have merged all these technologies, fusioned the data, and made data from the sensor interfaces available in a 3D visualization through M.App Enterprise to their customers. Also, of course, this one is defense focused, but there's also models or projects you could use the technology for in non-defense areas. And non-defense, that's for example here our customer in Estonia. So Estonian Railway is using again a M.App Enterprise based system for the company-wide management of infrastructure data or administration of these data, and also improve the efficiency of railway infrastructure processes here. Again, using the well-known M.App Enterprise technology. And then away from infrastructure and defense projects to statewide governmental projects in the area of national heritage. So this is based in Poland, and this state agency is also, or one of their tasks or jobs is to provide information, to disseminate information on national heritage, cultural heritage information. And I know you have similar, or not a similar, but in the focus is similar in a project in Dublin. So I learned about that in your last conference last year. So this project is also related to the same topic. And again, our customers using the different components of the whole power portfolio, and yeah, added some extensions within this project to the existing solution. Then step back to Germany here again. That's one of our main customers here in Germany. It's German Rail. So one of the largest rail infrastructure providers in the world, or especially in Europe, and they are using GeoMedia, not only GeoMedia, but in a very important project using GeoMedia for a GIS management as GIS management platform. They have an add-on on top of that to make it a enterprise-wide GIS for German Rail. And if you look what they also could do with relevant technologies from Hexagon Geospatial in the network area, here's another project from UK. Network Rail is using artificial intelligence to automatically identify bridges, tunnels, and other infrastructure objects, and also be able to measure inside these data. So you can start from your standard, for example, M.App enterprise-based infrastructure visualization and jump into this AI-based tool to analyze and measure your data in detail in the field. And the next example here is that's a small movie, and I hope it's working now. If I start it, yeah, it should work. So that's the well-known M.App enterprise user interface. And if you click on the right side on this small button, you jump immediately, in this case, into a LiDAR data source visualization. So this is two LiDAR data sources combined into one. So we have railway information, we have street information, and you can immediately use all these LiDAR information by or provided or visualized with the tools included in M.App Enterprise. You can also measure here within the LiDAR data. That's one of the huge benefits. So you can not only visualize, but you can also, if you for example are being asked about the distance between bridge and street, you can immediately measure here in the this visualization. So again, combining different technologies, and that's the last example I would like to present is one of the examples here is the port of Tallinn, a huge port in Estonia, and they are using not only M.App Enterprise but also GeoMedia and GeoMedia Web Map to manage and also infrastructure assets like utility networks, and also to improve processes. So the workflow component is also very useful here in this project. Again, all based on standard products. Customers, due to COVID, continue to run their projects. We've been able to help them even in remote sessions. That's one of the advantages if you act as an IT company. I don't say it's not necessary to have these on-site physical meetings, but we could show together with the customers that we can continue with the different projects. And I only can encourage you to do the same, to focus on your projects and try to find ways, be creative, try to find ways to collaborate. And if you're interested in learning more about our 2020 new projects, wins, etc., then just let us know. we can share much more information than that. So my exercise in the days before that presentation was to make a short selection out of, I don't know, 60, 70 customer projects that popped up last year, and I hope I can share next time a lot of new projects in your area, in your country, with other customers worldwide. So thank you for that. And again, if you want to learn more about the different projects, just reach out to us. We are available to share more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Armin. That was excellent. It's great to see the range of products, and I think it's interesting. I know our attendees this morning range from local government to utilities and infrastructure to national mapping, you know. So again, and to very much similar to what you've been showing us this morning in the examples globally, from the NGA to ports to utilities to all the infrastructure, rail. So again, I know we've people from across that area. So it's great to see Hexagon's range in that area and across that whole portfolio, which again a lot of our customers all come from. So that's excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
I particularly like the Canadian example. I know it was around kind of, obviously from a defence perspective, around kind of nuclear plumes and things like that, but you can really kind of relate that back to smart cities in terms of pollution from cars, or even just from a fire service. Again, people from fire service as well. So again, if there was a chemical spill or a factory went on fire, etc., it's great to know that with sensors that exist all around the city, cities actually in Dublin or in Ireland, that they can do that kind of analysis and kind of predict where that kind of bloom is going to go, and I suppose if there's a need to take additional steps in terms of moving people out of particular areas. Very good.
Armin, if you could just stop screen sharing, because I think it then lets me screen to share. Yep, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to share screen. So yeah, again, very similar to carrying on from Armin's messaging, and is to look at a Pacific customer, and here it's an Irish customer, and and again very much it's using the GMedia toolkit. So the sorry, I lost my slide here. It's how GMedia and Image Station has been used in land and property services in Belfast for producing the national mapping in Northern Ireland. So we're going to talk about the whole photogrammetry. So for those who don't know, land and property services have a mapping division, which would have previously been better known as Ordnance Survey Northern Ireland. And in the mapping, the mapping division is responsible for the production of the OSNI small-scale maps, which again is done using GMedia, creating the large-scale map revision, creation and maintenance of the pointer address database, developing the Northern Ireland GI strategy, providing OSNI mapping and related data to public and private sectors, maintaining the national grid and geodetic and height network for Northern Ireland, and maintaining statutory boundaries and delineating these on mapping. So LPS went to market 2 years ago for a photogrammetry solution. So they were looking for a single platform for the processing of imagery from camera to large-scale database and national imagery. So they were looking for a solution that could provide aero triangulation, the creation of the digital elevation model, auto production, and then mono and stereo vector capture to update the Fusion large-scale database. So Fusion, for those customers in the south of Ireland, that's the LPS kind of equivalent to Prime. So updating the Fusion, which will be their large-scale database to create the vector data. Another big requirement of that system was integrating with LPS's existing one spatial job and workflow management solution to provide change-only updates into the Oracle database. So previously, LPS had a number of systems to fulfill this requirement. So they actually wanted to come up with one solution, one platform, and one provider. And we were able to bid a Hexagon solution that met all those requirements. So the solution was made up of a number of components of the Image Station and GMedia. So from the aero triangulation, taking the raw imagery from the flyover and triangulating that data to create the AT and the digital elevation file, to then using stereo to create the DTMs and DXF file as a DXF, to then doing the queuing that data and triangulating it, and then creating the first level auto photography and auto produced product. So again, when I started getting involved with national mapping agencies and using seeing how imagery is produced, and you know, you just think the plane flies over the land and the image comes out of it, but of course it's a lot more complex than that. And being able to get the imagery and warp it together, because you may have, you know, one part of the country was captured and it was slightly brighter that day or slightly darker. You have different flying streams. You've different. You've also got different atmospheric issues during the day. Bringing all that together, correcting the data, make sure it's warped properly to the Irish grid or ITM, and producing a seamless auto product is a fairly complex process, and that's where ImageStation handles that end-to-end production of the auto photography and the auto imagery. So with that, we were able to provide a number of components of the GMedia and ImageStation stack. So ImageStation provides an automatic triangulation tool. It also has a DTM and stereo tools for the creating of the imagery and correcting of the imagery, and then we have the auto production products as well. And in LPS, a number of users would have the full GMedia Professional. Some were using GMedia Advantage and some GMedia Essentials. We also use SQL Server Express just to store some metadata about how the draping of the imagery and work was done. The auto production itself was using ImageStation Auto Pro, which was to take the imagery and then output TIFF, JPEG 2000, ECW, and also some tab for post-processing information. We then had to create the DTM, so again, taking the image, bringing it through, generating the elevations, and then outputting the terrain model as a DXF, outputting the ASCII, the XYZ, and the last file. So again, we used a combination of GMedia and ImageStation, and as you'll see in a lot of our projects, we use FME then for this different data conversions, and in this case, for converting the data out to the last format. So again, big thing for the image production guys in Belfast was having one desktop, one interface for all these products. While previously they may have had to jump from product to product, it became a one single solution. So then the stereo photogrammetric production was a lot of integration to do there. So we had to integrate with the LPS workflow management system, which would create the job, which would create the work for the person to do. Again, we used FME server to integrate there. It would then create the job, which was available in the GMedia system. They were able to download the piece of large-scale data that needed to be edited in that job to the local GMedia system, edit the information, and then provide the data back as GML, so as change-only GML, to FME, which then pushed the data into the Oracle database via the OneSpatial interface. So providing change-only information back, but also using FME in the photogrammetric desktop to validate the changes before they were posted. So the Fusion database, like the Prime2 database in the South, has an awful lot of business rules to make sure that the large-scale data is produced to a high enough level. So instead of us sending the data back to OneSpatial and then the data being bounced because it was wrong or hadn't followed the right geometric or attribute or business rules, we were able to build these rules in FME, call them rules from GMedia, and then push any errors that needed to be checked back into the GMedia workspace, so the editor there and then can make the changes without having to wait for the report to come back from the OneSpatial system. So again, really streamlining this, and also because of the power of FME to do some very complex queries and integrate and reporting, it was able to check all this data, both 3D and 2D, because again, the system is stereo and mono, so the users can see the data in stereo and mono view. Again, one desktop, being able to switch from stereo to mono using GMedia or ImageStation with FME to provide that integration. So this was the big piece, was being able to provide these change-only updates to the OSNI Fusion system. So we were able to integrate with the workflow, bring the data down using FME server, and then send it back up. But not before it was checked to make sure the data was correct, that all the changes were correct, and then providing that change-only file back to the system. And it really, this is a great example of integrating a desktop GIS like GMedia with FME. And again, we talk about how that just expands what you can do with it, expands out the limitations of the desktop product. Marcus mentioned this morning, integrating with something like Xalt or FME, how that, you can then bring in more sensor information, bring in other data that maybe the desktop product wasn't able to do. In the case of the LPS project, we needed to drape the DTM, the features over the DTM and create the Z value. Again, we were able to automatically do that using FME, speeding up the workflow for the end user and what they were doing. So some of the customizations we did in GMedia, we now have the job management capabilities, which integrates that you could open a job, see the jobs that have been assigned to you, bring the data down and work on those jobs inside GMedia. As I said, it then calls FME to do some very advanced validation using an FME workspace, but that validation is useless unless it actually passes back the errors with the errors marked on the map so the person can correct them. So that could be where somebody has forgot to put the Z value on a new feature, or put the wrong Z value because it's a lamppost, so it should be above the ground, not below the ground. So having that capability is really, really important. And that's why we have inside GMedia now the ability to see these logs, to call FME server and get the information back, and then able to locate those errors on the map and then change them and fix them and resubmit the data. So I just want to show you the system now. If I play this video, so you can see here we can start up the LPS GMedia system. So you can see that I think this is GMedia 2018. It connects to the workspace. So it then picks up the full data model. You can see straight away there's no features loaded because there's no active jobs. So all the legend is got 0 records. So there's nothing in the legend. But you can see they can go to the workflow, open a job, and then pick the jobs that are assigned to that user. So they can see their different jobs. They can see the date, time, when they were created. They can pick a job, open it up, and now it loads up, takes the data from the master database just for the job area, just for the area that is required. So it hasn't downloaded the whole database. It has just downloaded the data that they want to work on. And you can see the legend is now populated and they can make changes. So inside the GMedia workspace, we then also have, again, as I mentioned before, the Fusion data model is fairly complex. So we have a custom data form which allows you to change the form to see how you can see the attributes, but it also has drop-down lists and specific form ID values that can be used to make it easy for the user. So you can say in this case, when he's picking the type code, he's picking from drop-down lists. So that's using the GMedia form toolkit that we've built on, where you can configure these forms to read the database to auto-populate these fields without programming. So really, really easy to use. Again, ensures high-quality data because people aren't free texting in values. You can also see there it's picking up Pollyanni's user ID when she was creating the video, and also the change date is being automatically populated. So again, inside GMedia, we're actually able to add in all this information and make sure it's done correctly. So now we're going to use GMedia to insert some data. So we can write to the Photogrammetry database, pick the feature. So in this case, it'll be a structure, I think, and we can then draw on the map the feature. So we can capture in, and this data is then provided into the database. And of course, we're using, the desktop product here to integrate nicely with this workflow and capture the geometry and things, and use FME server then to integrate the data. This also could be the same work could be done inside M.App Enterprise, as Marcus has shown this morning, connecting to a third-party job management, bringing the information in, and then using external tools to validate the information. So you can see here we've created our polygon, and now we have to populate the attributes. So the data gets created. And we're going to create another one. Let me see how my video is doing here. Yeah. And you can see here as well, we can delete a feature. So I think it didn't quite pick up in the video there, but yeah, we can read it. So we've done a deletion, we've done an insertion. We run the validate job now. So now it's calling FME, and it comes back and says so actually as well, we track all the changes that were done during the process. So it says there was a feature inserted, there was 2 features, one updated and one deleted. We can then run the validation, and it will find any errors that we have in our report. And so here it says, well, one business rule was not populated, so we didn't populate some of the attributes. And you can see now it's dropped that little point marker on the map to show that this data is wrong and needs to be validated. So now you can open the polygon, and then if you populate the attribute. I'm not sure I'm getting echo. Yeah, we can populate the attributes, then we're able to then do the system, fill it in properly, and then when we go to post again in a second, let me just speed this up because we're getting a bit short for time. We can then rerun the update, fill in the data, make any other changes we want to make. And this time you can see we've made more changes, and you can see again we're getting the other errors that we might get, and you can see the nice little icons we have when there's warnings or errors on a feature insert if it's not a good error. So in this case the Z order is wrong or the size is too small, and we get extra errors showing up on the map when we make those kind of changes. And then again we can fix these issues and come back. So once they're fixed, then the data will be is able to be posted back to the system. And the log is created. And then it creates those change files, which are in a zip file, which FME will then send back to the server, and automatically that gets loaded up through the workflow management into the one spatial database. So it's a great example of how we can extend the power of GMedia to take into account, really complex workflows. And of course, the one value there is we now have all that validation in FME. So again, if LPS wanted to, they could use that workspace with their mobile workflows, with other applications, all going through one single source of validation, whether it's desktop, web, or mobile. So really, really useful platform. Sorry, that should be moving on. So just a bit keeping on time. In summary, OSNI and the mapping division, they wanted the Hexagon Geospatial provided a complete photogrammetric platform from sensor to database, and GMedia image station was the ideal solution for large-scale stereo and mono editing of vector data. So again, they were able to go from having a number of products. Actually, on the stereo capture, I think they had 2 systems. So they used to do the stereo capture on one piece of software and then went into another piece of software to do the attribution. So the guys had to have 2 workstations or 2 desktops and jump from one to the other to do the job. Now they can do it all through one single screen. And that's my session on the photogrammetry and LPS. Garrett, are you going to share your screen?
Yeah, I'll share my screen, and
yeah, let me just stop sharing here. There we go.
Sorry, typical, just as I'm about to present, a car alarm's going off behind me. I don't know if you can pick it up, but it's always the way. Brilliant. So thanks for that, Ciaran. There's a great presentation. You don't realize, I suppose, you take for granted, I guess, more than anything else, how complicated these type of workflows are when you're looking at your Prime 2 data or any kind of cartographic maps or printed maps when you're going hiking, etc. You don't realize how much goes on in the background behind it. So not really interesting. Today I'm going to be covering our asset register 2021. So today is more of a kind of sneak peek on our part of some of the changes. Our asset register or property register has been massively successful probably over the last 18 months, 2 years. It's really kind of taken off from this kind of drive from local and central government to this drive to understand what assets they have and to make sure that they're, I suppose, captured not just from a financial aspect but from a geographical aspect as well. So I'm going to touch on some of the changes that we're making to the platform itself, and we're going to split it into 2 parts. Ciaran's going to show some of the changes we're going to make to the back end around kind of a disposals layer, and which will eventually feed into more changes later down the road, like a current interest register. And then I'm going to touch on kind of reporting and some of that integration. Again, Ciaran mentioned about FME. We tend to use it on every project just because of its rich power, and looking through the list of people or attendees, I don't think there's anybody here that doesn't use FME. You're very familiar with the product, but again, just to kind of reiterate, I suppose probably back in early 2000 we did our first transaction register or property transaction register, and that was built on the M.App platform. A few years later then we upgraded again or re-platformed again to Smart Client for even more and richer usability for end users. And then about, I'd say, 18 months to 2.5 years ago, we moved to M.App Enterprise. Again, you've heard us speak about the benefits of M.App Enterprise all day today, so I won't labor them too much. But the reason, I suppose, the move to this is there's also that ability for obviously 3D in the future, for mobile workflows, etc. So it made sense for us to start to use M.App Enterprise. We were also able to really refine the requirements based on user groups and steering committees you're with central government to kind of give non-GIS or non-IT experts a very simple interface to be able to capture an asset, edit an asset, report on an asset, etc. So we're going to touch on that today. So Ciaran's going to queue up first on the disposal side of things, but again, just to touch on that kind of targeted workflow, and I think that's what we're trying to show today. Like what I say about FME, it's kind of like a bag of Lego. You can apply it to whatever the business problem is or whatever the need is, whether that's internal or public facing. So again, M.App Enterprise has that ability to give people this targeted workflow like asset management or any of the examples that Armin gave around obviously ports management, or if it was disaster management, etc., or smart cities. So it's not, I suppose, this slide is a little bit confusing in the sense of it's not that a manager's job is simple, but they don't need to understand the complexity as GIS professionals, as IT professionals. Obviously, we know how hard you work to maintain your data sources, to make sure they're up to date, that they're valid, that they're accessible, and same as specialist divisions like asset care. Again, really high intensive work that you guys do in the background to provide these services both internally to the council or to the agency, but also out to the public. The manager's job is simple as in the sense of they don't understand where the databases are or what coordinate systems it's in, but they just need a dashboard. How many assets do we own? How many we have disposed? How many assets do we have in a particular area, etc. And that's kind of what we loved about M.App Enterprise, and we chose to re-platform. So I'm going to stop sharing now in a second. I'm going to hand over to Ciaran, but what Ciaran's going to show is some of this kind of changes that we've made to M.App Enterprise. Now, we still have to bring it all together. This is kind of like a tech preview to give you a bit of an idea of what's coming down the line. So again, it's this disposals workflow to be able to just create and edit disposed assets. And we've updated the not only the back end to be able to handle these kind of queries or this additional information, but also the user interface to make it nice and simple to be able to run these workflows. Again, these layers can be styled, and again, there's lists. And then finally, this is kind of us moving towards that ability to have a current interest layer as well inside it. So Ciaran, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to hand over to you. That worked. I can't hear you, Ciaran. You muted?
Yes, I can only click 2 buttons at one time. I'm not really good at multitasking, you know. Okay, so I will flick to M.App Enterprise here. Now I don't get to show the nice black screen that Marcus had, because we don't have our hands on it yet. So this is the 2019 version. You can see it's the dark green version. The colors keep changing. It started bright green, now went to a darker green, and now it's gone black. So I'm not sure what that tells us about M.App Enterprise. So I've logged in already. I'm logged in as Praguti here, and we have this is this comes with a health warning. I know Marcus is holding his cards pretty close to his chest with the new release of M.App Enterprise. This is definitely in development. It's mid-development, so if it crashes or does anything funny, don't hold it against me. But we wanted to show you this because it's, as Garrett said, the disposals workflow has been something that our customers have been asking for a while. We do have a lot of people now on the asset register in Ireland. We've always captured the acquisition of the asset and managed that asset. But again, a big requirement from the customers naturally is if a local authority buys an asset, is the ability to dispose of that asset or to sell that asset. Also, the disposals are not usually one-for-one. So you might buy a 100-acre site as a local authority, but you may only sell a portion of it off, or portions at different points in times. So being able to have the split a partial in a number of pieces to record the original acquisition, to record the disposal or disposals, and to also, as Garrett mentioned, the current interest, to know what it is you actually own. So you bought X, you sold off Y, you currently own X minus Y. So that's the functionality that we're hoping to have out in the next month or so. We're definitely able to give you a sneak peek this morning. So for those who may not have seen the asset register in M.App Enterprise before, and we'll zoom in here into Monaghan, who are one of the early adopters and have been great supporters with us with the M.App Enterprise. I can zoom in this area. Now the data is made up data, so there's nothing real apart from the OSI data. And I can create a property acquisition. So I can go in and capture an asset, hit the button, it brings up the asset workflow. I put in the file number, my tab, I pick my type, so it's a land, let's say. I give another asset number. Now these are all configurable, that things we can change. And you can see because it's land, the asset ID was LAND and it's picked up. And I can pick a department. Again, I pick Clonus and I'll give it a name. So now I can, and I should give it a proper name, my field. And I can now capture the record, which again, you'll have all seen this ability before, how we can actually do data capture. You can see how straight away we're able to snap to the record and it follows the line. And I can then draw my big, and you can see I'm a terrible digitizer. I can draw my field and save it in the database. So I hit save and I've now created my site. So we've now got our acquisition and you can see it's now been saved, and the other forms are then opened up. So you can see disposals in the future. This is the piece we'll be changing. You can see the asset details and automatically it's calculated the area of the asset captured. And then we've got the acquisition information, so I could put down who I bought it from, record that information in the system, and address and the type of acquisition, CPO, all that very important information that the council need to get. And all this is driven through the asset system. And you can see it's on a planning record query as well here. And I can save the record. The workflow is now ended, and we can see the application is now in the map. And we've also got our tooltip for that record. So that's workflow that we've had before. We've also got the ability to search for assets in the system. So we've the really nice search and filter control that you can go in and look up assets, zoom to them, see them. Again, I won't go into too much because we're tight for time, but that's what we've shown you before. And we have the ability to delete an asset again, and that's got an audit trail. But the piece we wanted to show this morning was if I click on the record and go action, we now have asset disposal. So we have before the ability to see the asset, edit the geometry, but we're now adding the extra additional workflow, which is asset disposal. So I can click on the asset disposal. I can select, and again, this is in development, so I can select it's a pure disposal, rent, lease, or whatever we want to put into it. And now I'm able to do the disposal capture. And now I can draw the disposal inside the site. Now, at the minute, we're not doing the full validation, but when we release this, it will say if I draw outside the polygon, you have a mistake, has to be inside the existing record. But that's just being finished off as we speak. So I can capture the polygon, hit save, and we've now got our disposal. And what will happen in the back office, and again, just being finished off, or will be finished off in the next week or two, we'll do two things. We will clip that area from the current interest. So we'll have three features. We'll have the acquired record. We will have the current interest, so which will be the big blue polygon less the slightly purpley one. And then we'll have the disposal feature, which we have now. So we have the disposal asset, which we can now see on the map, and it'll have its own feature and its own capability. So you can then see it. And then, of course, I can, on the asset, the disposal, I can actually delete the disposal, I can view it, I can edit it. And again, this is stuff that's in development, so you can see we've now got the disposal and it's now created as a separate record. So this, again, if we were face-to-face, to be an applause at this point, because it has been asked for a wee while, and we're delighted now to be bringing this out into the next release of the 2021 of the Asset Register, which is becoming so popular with the councils. And Garrett, with that, I'll pass back to you.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Ciaran. I think it's worth mentioning again is just that in the back end that there is all of that audit functionality as well. So if someone is disposing or deleting of an asset, it's not just one individual. So if Ciaran tried to delete that asset or dispose of it, we've got things like two-step authentication. So it will be passed to me to confirm that you've also deleted it as well, or that I'm confirming that it's okay if you delete. So we've got these different rules that we've built in based on actual feedback from our customers. So just let me share mine quick. So the second, as Ciaran had mentioned, this was probably a popular request from most of the agencies that we've spoken to. But on the second part of that is also reporting. So I know a lot of the legacy asset or property management tools have legacy reporting, and it's something that's quite time consuming for end users. They might have senior managers or a councillor or somebody ask how many particular types of an asset do in a particular area, how much of it has been disposed, etc. So we've always had okay reporting with inside M.App Enterprise, so you can pull out these lists. We'll go out to Excel, but we've gone a step further and integrated in FME to do kind of that extra little step. So again, you can have these automated or scheduled on demand report generation. Again, they're dynamic and interactive, which I'm going to show to you shortly now. And as well, today we're just going to show HTML, but these could also come out to the likes of Word. We already have Excel there, PowerPoint, PDF, etc. So again, it's not an exhaustive list of the type of reports that can be generated. Again, the changes that we're going to make, you can then build on from there as well. So the example that we're going to use is one that comes up when we speak to people around how many, or when is our next renewals due. So how many leases are due for renewal over the next 30 days, for example. So that's the example that we did. But again, you can have multiple reports, and that feeds me on to the next piece in terms of the integration, which is that kind of self-service portal as well. So this ability to link out to FME server, which now has the ability to have these lovely galleries, which again have access control. They can be role driven. Again, you can add an additional hyperlink. So it's giving with inside M.App Enterprise a button to be pressed that will open up a kind of a self-service reporting portal, where people can get access to the information that they need instead of spending literally 3 days. Some of these reports can take to get information from around the organization. So I'm going to jump out without further ado and show it to you quickly. Bear 1 second. Stop sharing first. Actually, no, I don't. So again, similar to what Ciaran had showed, this is Monaghan. So I'm just going to go into an example area. So there's a couple of ways you can generate these reports. So we've got two different report types. You can have a report that you can just right click on. You can view assets, so you can do it from the map. I'll pull this in. And you have this get report button just up here, and it will automatically generate a report for that specific record. That can also be done through the search functionality at the top. So there is one that I prepared earlier. Is, oh, the filter's already there, but pretend it wasn't, and I'll just put it in now. So 2035, apply filter, and again you'll see Garrett Cronin test. Again, I can go settings, or sorry, I can go to edit, and it'll generate the it will open up the page. So I have all the asset information. I can change it. I can update it even before I run the report. Of course, the report's generating on a second page. And what it's doing is it's going off, it's calling FME, and FME is going off and doing a spatial query based on this particular asset that's here. So again, this is just a really basic one that we put together ourselves. So you've got some basic asset information. So again, around the acquisition, so you can see it came from Bob Stewart, the owner of IMGS that we acquired it from. You can see some where if it hasn't been disposed yet, so there's no disposal information, some lease information, who the occupier is, etc. And then again, you have this nice interactive map, so you can see where that particular asset is in relation to the area. We also popped in this little print button as well to make it really easier for end users to be able to print this or give it to a colleague or print a PDF, whatever it may be. And you can see the report that's here as well. So this is just one step in terms of reporting on a single asset. The second piece is the ability to be able to do a summary report. So we've added in an additional tab just up here. And if we click on it, what it's doing right now is it's actually calling FME Cloud, which is a server app in isolation. So you can see this app. Again, these can be completely styled. This is an image from our website. Again, just that it's a report. I want the report to run for February, so I want to see how many assets that I own are up for renewal this month. Again, it does this query. It opens up this really, really nice page with some asset summaries. So many assets are there. Got this kind of BI style HTML interface where you can click on and off to see some statistical information. Again, department by owners, again, you can click on these and you can see that it changes. And down here we have some just fake information, assets due for lease renewals this month. So again, as an end user, I can go, okay, I need to work on these. I need to speak with maybe our legal department or finance department to get that documentation together. Again, there's that printability down here as well, where you can click that print. So I'm just going to jump back here. So when I click this button here, as I said, it's opening up a server app, but this could a single one. But again, this could be a gallery. So again, it can open up a gallery like this example we did around commercial properties for Dublin Airport. So again, where you can have a list of different reports. So one could be what are due for renewal, how many have we disposed, how many have we assets have we acquired, and you can have these multiple reports in a lovely branded interface, and you can click in and you can put in some additional information about the particular asset before the report is generated. Same as a mock-up that we did for Dublin City Council. So again, you'll have these multiple kind of reports, but also you can have links to document management systems, which is there already, or external links or Teams, whatever it may be. So it's really kind of lift that kind of functionality and collaboration around our asset register. So these are, as Ciaran had said, kind of a sneak peek into what's coming soon down the line for our asset register. We are always open to feedback. So again, these are just some of the report examples that we have done based on some of the conversations we've had with customers. But if you have any other ideas of what you'd like to see to be changed or during the project, we're happy to kind of pre-configure some of these for you so they're kind of out of the box when they happen. And yeah, that's it. I think I have a summary. Do I have a summary page? Yeah, again, so just, you know this already because it's been quite popular, but again, it can be deployed quite quickly, and that's one of the benefits of M.App Enterprise as a whole. Again, it can be deployed really, really rapidly, whether it be on-premise or in the cloud. Again, you can create, edit, and maintain your own workflows. So any of the organizations that use M.App Enterprise for other workflows outside of asset management, they know this already. This isn't a black box with M.App Enterprise. You can go in, and as legislation changes or requirements changes, you can update the functionality to add or remove information as needed. And again, it's expandable. So again, as we know, M.App Enterprise is kind of like a bag of Lego. So if you did want to expand it out to have a mobile workflow, again, this is all possible inside the platform. So Ciaran, I am going to hand back to yourself, and that's everything from me.
Thanks, Garrett. Actually, there's a couple of questions come in on the asset management, which I think we'll take now just while they're current. I think I'll jump in and try and give a few answers. So David asked, it's always when you show some new functionality, somebody thinks of the next piece. So David asked a really, really good question. If we acquire two adjoining assets, can you create a single disposal across the two acquisitions? That's not what we're developing, but it's definitely capable. So we do have a merge component in the rich client. So you could select two disposals, and then, or you could draw two areas. You could merge the two features and then you could either create two disposals and merge them, or you could draw Yeah, there's a business rule there because, yeah, it could be two disposals and then merge and then push out. So yeah, definitely possible. Something we can think about now when we're doing it. I think we've been driven by single acquisition and multiple disposals. Yeah, this is opening up an area we hadn't talked about. Philip asked, is this standalone software? Well, it's actually a point we didn't make this morning. App Enterprise is a SaaS software solution. So in essence, in the asset register component, users can buy this for that reason only. Now they get the full stack, but because it's a SaaS model, you can buy pay as you go or as much as you need to eat or use. So yes, it can be a standalone solution. If you're another vendor, we won't mention who they are, you can use this solution on its own without having to re-engineer your whole stack. So and that is the real power of Map Enterprise.
Yeah, and that is the piece, Ciaran. I guess this is like with anything with Map Enterprise, any of these examples, whether it's a public dashboard or it's mobile, again, with it being a software as a service model, you can buy it at a really obviously low rate because you're only using it to solve one particular problem. So again, Philip, obviously, I know you use a different GIS, but again, so do most of the other councils have a mixture of actually different GISs. So again, when we're talking to them about asset management, they tend to just take this particular workflow, which is quite cost effective and easy to deploy, and it's to solve that particular problem without competing with your corporate GIS, for example.
And Philip asked, this is the last question, how long have you had this asset manager? Yeah, it's in its third, as Garrett mentioned earlier on, it's in its third iteration. So started on GeoMedia Web Map, went to GeoMedia Smart Client, has now evolved into Map Enterprise, and we've re-platformed and updated the technology. And yeah, it's been going nearly as long as I've been going in IMGS, which is
2003, I think, was, or 2004 maybe was the first Dublin's first property interest register.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. It's old, but the good thing is that we've been in the area for a long time, but we've re-platformed, we've used more modern technology, and I think this morning just shows with the BI reporting capabilities in Map Enterprise, there's a mobile element there if needs be. There's the reporting we've now shown with the FME integration. So it's as a solution, it really is. It's growing and has huge potential. And of course, we're doing property mainly. One of our customers, Sligo, they do all their assets in it. So it's all very configurable down to how you want, what assets you want to manage and how you want to store that data.
Just land parcels in Philip's case, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's brilliant. And it evolves every time we kind of work with customers or with a steering committee. We end up kind of changing it. And that's the great thing about Map Enterprise. Those kind of little Lego components that you can just plug in and add in additional workflows of validations or business rules, etc.
Great. Okay, time for the last presentation. There are a couple other questions which are on different topics.
Ciaran, I think you may say, okay, that's fine, yeah.
Yeah, we'll come back to them at the end, just in case people don't want to, mightn't be as interested in what I'm going to talk about. So if I share my screen, and just to keep us on track. Okay, so now we did do a webinar on this earlier in the year, which is taking more, taking more, looking at predictive analytics, and a lot of the work that's been done in the background has been by our data engineer, Aditya. But and again, building on what Marcus talked about this morning around monitoring and using analytics to actually make decisions, and then using Map Enterprise to action on those solutions. So you've heard about Map Enterprise all morning. It's an enterprise GIS platform. One of the areas we don't touch on too often, and I think it's it's the favorite thing I have from Map Enterprise, is Map Studio. So Marcus did show you in his session how you're able to now preview the maps and see what you're building. But Map Studio does provide now a very easy to use toolkit or configuration suite where you can create your apps, where you can connect the data, create legends, style features, and build these kind of workflows for creating, updating, and editing data, and creating searches and validations. So it's a part of the product we don't always talk about, but it means you can build these workflows. And as I mentioned with Marcus earlier, you can integrate SQL and integrate other technologies into Map Studio so that you can really drive the power of the system. So where the off-the-shelf product maybe has hit its limit, it's very easy to integrate other tools such as machine learning, such as Python scripts, analytics, SQL scripts, or whatever it is you want into your workflows. So in the rich client, which you've just seen there a minute ago, it's an enterprise solution where you can capture and edit data and do measurements and redlining. So we wanted to do a pole maintenance demonstration. So we were going to take a large area of LV network, and on that kind of basis, you are talking about a very expensive to inspect these poles manually, one by one. So organizations, when it comes to assets, when it comes to things these days, they need an enterprise solution to update pole or asset condition during any intervention. So having something mobile to do that, and then using predictive analytics to forecast when a pole requires maintenance. And then by integrating this with M.App Enterprise, we can manage asset maintenance in a cost-effective manner. So we're going to use, and if you had been at the FME World Tour last year, you would have seen how we're using FME to do some of this machine learning analytics. So with assets, they don't always decay uniformly. External events can be an impact, and weather can be a major factor. So we were going to take weather information, overlay that into the asset information, and start forecasting when assets are going to fail. So we were able to get the information for each pole using FME. We were able to read the data in from the data warehouse, and then use Python then to actually do the modeling, to do the machine learning capabilities to forecast when the poles were actually going to fail or were going to be at a dangerous level. And then once we have that data, we were going to be able to visualize the information in M.App Enterprise and work from there. So if I just get my little link and fire up here, so different system. Oh, that didn't work. And I go into my poles maintenance. I'm again in an older version of M.App Enterprise, and I can go into the rich client in M.App Enterprise. Oh, I should shut that one first then. So it'll fire up. And in here now, we'll see the results of the analytic that we've run used FME to take the pole information and visualize that in the map, so that then we're able to use workflows in M.App Enterprise, A, to see that data, and B, then to action out. So if there is poles that are being forecast to be damaged, that we can then assign a job to somebody to actually work on them, so that we can update the information to say we've repaired the pole. So we have the map will come up now, and it'll show all the poles. This is sample data, by the way. It'll show all the poles that we've created in this segment in Ireland. And if I hover over a pole, I'll zoom in down here beside this few samples we have here. You can see we have the pole data, and we have our little map here. So we have the survey, and then we have the asset maintenance. So the survey is the data we processed that was historical information. So I can make that active, click on the feature, and I can see the survey information for that record. So you can then see the poles survey. So this is the pole ID, the lat long, when it was done. And then we have the survey information that was captured out in the field, or that was generated, which is the defects of the information, the thickness, the scale, and we can update this information and run it, and then save that data about the poles. So we're able to run the pole information. But then what we're able to do with the machine learning is actually generate a list of records that need maintenance. So being able to say which poles are using the machine learning forecasting to figure out which of the poles are going to fail, and then assigning jobs to them, so that then when we look at the pole, we can actually work from there. So we can actually update the pole status as we're doing it. So the forecast actually goes out and says, okay, these are the poles that we need to look at. So then we can say, well, actually, we went out to the field, and this could be done on the mobile or done on the rich client. The engineer has resolved the issue. He is then saying the pole has been replaced, put in the information and saved, and that information is then saved to the database. So we use the analytics to A, calculate the current condition of the poles, and B, then use the analytics to forecast which poles are in need of instant or urgent repair. And then that can be created as a job in the rich client, in M.App Enterprise, actioned upon, and then completed. So you can see we're using really complex machine learning to forecast when an asset is due for repair or when it's going to break, or anything you want to do. Like this could be road condition forecasting, replacement. All these machine learning models are out there, integrating them with FME into M.App Enterprise, and then being able to run and visualize the information. We're using the rich client here. It could be the mobile app. It could be the BI. Once you get that data in, it's then able to be shared and used. And let me just go back to my slide. And yeah, and that's that session. So let me just go
Yeah,
back.
I think you made a great point there about it being applied to anything. So whether that's, as I said, from a local government, again, looking at our audience, if that's local government, when it comes to, when you think of playgrounds, I know, which are a huge insurance problem for them. So again, when you're thinking if they're ones out by the sea, for example, with the salt air, will probably need repair a lot quicker than obviously ones inland. There's just loads of different, I suppose, examples you can apply that workflow to, and it's no longer this AI isn't this big scary thing anymore. A lot of these algorithms are online and they're available that you can kind of take down and you can edit and apply them, which I think is really, really useful.
Great. Okay, now that's the end of our session. We have still had a good few questions coming in around the asset register. So a couple from Adrienne. So if we digitize a site within a site, donut style, digitizing the building section within a land site, can I do? Oh yes, so you can digitize a site within a site. Yes. Again, we just have to agree that the rules of that. Like, is that a new acquisition or is it an existing one? But yeah, the plan is that you can have the current, the original acquisition will be stored in a table, and then you will have the split out of multiple sites that have the current registered asset and the ones that are disposed. So yeah, you should be able to do it inside. And the other question was, do we need FME server to run the reports? In the way we've done them, yes. You could run the reports from desktop, but there would need to be some development because you have to call the desktop process. So it wouldn't be nice. So I think, yeah, pretty much Garrett, isn't it? You need server for that.
Yeah, you need server for it. You could probably put a trigger in or something like that. You could be able to do it, but it's not. I said the majority of customers that have it existing, and I suppose some of the ones they're looking at in the future don't have it. But when you think of FME Cloud, which is what we used there, like you're talking query like that would cost you less than 2 cents, if you know what I mean. So you can get access to cloud to kind of and run the reports that way, and you would probably be paying no more than maybe 2-3 quid a month in order to run those reports. And again, it's that much nicer interface for the organization and the end user, I guess. Yeah,
the only thing with the cloud would be where the data is. We're doing it. The database would have to be available to the cloud, or the data would have to get up to the cloud for them to generate the report. But yeah, technically, yes, definitely, if they were both in the cloud, or we could make the Azure database. If it's, I know some of the customers are in Azure already, so the FME Cloud could query that data. But if it's on-prem, they'd have a sync issue there. Yeah, the other question that we had was from Richard about the My Workflow. It's a custom code. It's a custom app we created, but completely configurable through the FME Workbench and the workspace itself. So actually, it could be without us having to recreate it. It could be pointed for a different workflow and different data just by reading the legend in the workspace. So very configurable. Custom app we created, but yeah, really, really, really configurable. So it could be used for different purposes. Trying to see, have I missed any other questions? There was one. Oh yeah, Kevin asked, the DTM accuracy. Sorry, I am not. I should know this answer, but I don't. I'm not sure how accurate the LPS data is, but I do think it covers the 6 counties.
Andrew answered it actually.
Andrew answered it.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, same to that. So yeah, no, definitely that's. I should know that now after all the time we've worked with them. Okay. If there's any other questions, we're pretty much running on good time. Maybe Tanya, do we have winners on the prizes, or are we fixed?
Yeah, I was looking at the leaderboard there. I'll just go in and have a quick look, and we'll give an update as to where we are.
Ready for the drum roll.
Okay, at the moment in first place with 43 points we have Vera.
Sorry, yeah.
And second place then with 33 points is Andrew Eastup. And in third
LPS.
From LPS, yeah. And then in third place with 23 points with Jim Davey.
All right, okay, from OSI. So that's a good split. So and I think Andrew, how does it work at Tanya? Do we give whoever's first, which would be Vera, her choice, and then Andrew gets
we
the
can
next
give
one? Vera
a choice whether she wants the Echo Dot or whether she wants the Fitbit, and then Andrew would get the other prize then. And there's a number of people that are running then from Fort down. We have some IMGS notebooks and pens that we can forward to those. Yeah.
And we'll see what we can get Jim for being third and being close.
Yeah, we'll put something together for him.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's going to be us for today. Unless any other questions are coming, I don't think there are. I'd like to thank everybody. I'd like to thank Armin and Marcus for their participation this morning. It's great to have the guys' support. I know also Andy Garrett is in the booth there, so thank Andy for all his help with getting everything together, and the guys in Hexagon. And thank the team here, Tanya and Garrett, and I know Aditya was doing work in the background, and Prakriti, so a lot of support going on, and Avian has been keeping an eye and jumping in and out all over the morning, so she's there as well, making sure we're all keeping track. But I think that's really it for today. Just let you all know, these sessions will be going online. So we will be sharing PDFs of the presentations, and you'll be able to see the videos play back if needs be. And Tanya just said that in the message. Garrett, anything else to add in there?
No, that's everything exactly. I think you covered it all, Ciaran. So again, thanks everybody for your participation. I know a lot of these virtual events can kind of get tedious after a little while, but I think we've did a good job in keeping it short, hopefully kept it relevant. And yeah, as I said, the information will be available online, and if there's any follow-up questions that you're going to sit and think of over a cup of coffee later on, don't be afraid to reach out to Ciaran or myself. Again, we're always happy to answer any questions you have around anything that we showed today.
Definitely.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, everybody, I just hope everybody stays safe. Thanks for everyone for attending. Again, a record attendance, which is great to see. I hope everyone, and hopefully soon we'll be face to face. But I think these events, this SL events technology is working well and does provide the ability to record and everything, which is great. So we may be looking at combined kind of things in the future, because I know more people are able to attend when they're online.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Well, thanks everybody.
Thanks guys.
Thanks
have
everyone.
a good day.
See you now. Bye.
Thanks Marcus. Thanks Aaron. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.